Boom. We're back. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Another rendition of Coach's Corner. Got a very special guest for you guys today. His name's Kyle Provost. He's my business partner at Broker Carrier. I'll introduce him in a second on this beautiful Wednesday we have going on here. I got to give a shout out to my friends over at Bitfreighter first. They are longtime supporters of the show, and they are on a mission to connect the logistics industry with a flat fee for unlimited EDI messaging. Carriers and brokers alike, you are costing yourself business by not having a digital option to accept tenders from your customers. With their managed EDI platform, it is no longer an expensive and unattainable option for companies who may not have a legacy TMS to utilize for your day-to-day operations. Bitfreighter's managed EDI platform is fully integrated with TMS providers like PCS Software, DAT Keypoint, Revenova, and EasyLoader to provide a seamless transition for all your EDI needs. This levels the playing field for your organization and makes you EDI compliant with your customers through automation. If your customers are requiring you to have EDI capabilities, you now have a seamless and effective tool with my friends at Bitfreighter. If you're ready to learn more, visit www.bitfreighter.com to request a demo today or to check and see if your TMS is one of the 9 that they have full integrations with. Just do me a favor. Let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Them, Emerge, Trucker Tools, they're all longtime supporters of this show out there. Scott, the Freight Sensei up in Boise, Idaho, he's already here dropping knowledge. He's a good connect, Kyle. Kyle, you connect with Scott. He's with Armstrong Transport Group out of Boise, Idaho.
Will do.
But Kyle, thanks for joining me, man. I know it was it wasn't like pulling strings or anything like that. You wanted to do this because Kyle needs to get out there into the freight world, and people need to know who Kyle Provost is. So with that being said, Kyle, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of a background.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I mean, you know me. I feel like we talk on the phone all the time. So as Chris said, my name is Kyle Provost. I'm his business partner at Broker Carrier. I'm in about my 20th year of software development. It's been something that's I've done ever since I was a teenager. I built my first program when I was 12, built my first website when I was 14, just been a geek my entire life. First job out of high school, I was in the Navy. I worked in naval intelligence as a cryptologist, as a Chinese linguist in particular, but did a lot of general cryptology work too. And that was where I discovered a real passion for data analysis, language processing, complex business logic, just all of the pieces that come into the programming and building of complex software. Has captivated my mind from a very young age, and it was obviously always going to be my career. So here we are, 15 odd years after getting out of the Navy. I'm still doing that. I've operated a web development agency, a small boutique software shop. Broker Carrier is my third SaaS venture. And I just couldn't be more excited to be here working with the Freight Coach, Chris, and pushing this thing out there to kind of fix problems that we saw with the freight brokering industry.
No, absolutely, man. And Scott says, thank you for your service. And yeah, man, thank you for your service. Scott actually just retired. He got out of the Army here recently. And yeah, man, it's Steve Peterson. What's going on, man? How are you? Yeah, dude, it's wild how many, there's a lot of great organizations out there. I got to give a shout out to my friends at Troops to Logistics. There's a great pathway for individuals who come out of the military to get into transportation because there's such a direct correlation to that style of mindset and training that you receive in the military. It's very process oriented, very analytical, ABC 1, 2, 3, follow this. And there's a direct correlation to that in success in transportation because it's a lot of what some could deem a monotonous task when you're moving 75 truckloads in a day. You got to do the same thing, but it's always having a backup plan for a backup plan just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even when you're in the service, when you're conducting a campaign or, a warfare campaign overseas, all of the biggest challenges are in the logistics.
Yeah.
Always. So, somebody who's managed personnel strength and equipment strength under the context of national defense can certainly handle hauling cargo on the nation's highways. It's a very similar modality. It's actually not a big leap at all. And I think it's wonderful that there's an organization like that to facilitate that transition for people.
Yeah, man, there's a ton of them out there. I had my Troops of Logistics, Scott Snyder was on my podcast a while back and we were kind of talking about all that. Jesse Griffin, thank you. I do enjoy the new setup as well. It's 2 years in the making. Well, it's 2 years of figuring all this shit out to get to a point where I'm like, hey, I can reinvest in myself. And yes, Jesse, are you going to be at the TIA conference coming up next weekend? That's another thing too, for all of you guys, all you brokers out there. I'm going to be at the TIA. I'm going to be speaking moderating a couple of panels. I'll be there walking around on Thursday. I'd love to meet all of you out there. I'll be in my prototypical getup that's out there. Let me LinkedIn user, your security system. You got to change your settings. It says LinkedIn user. Amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk logistics. Loosely attributed to General Omar Bradley. Yeah, man. It's dude. So like, I know when we first connected about this, like you were obviously mutual friend, Mitch Wilbert. He's the co-founder over at Unicron Logistics, my former employer. What kind of started this all was, I remember we all met up and we were talking, like, we were just like, hey, we need it wasn't like a digital option at the time, but we wanted to put our packet on our website, because I remember when we were growing out our brokerage, when I was working there, dude, we were spending so much time. We were spending so much time sending out paper packets to people. And then furthermore, they were coming back and like the W-9 was missing, or the insurance was missing, or their authority was missing. And that process took so long. And it's like, I know there's so many brokers out there that, whether you're in that startup mentality or not, it's like that you need to streamline what we can streamline. In my opinion, 90% of our job should be streamlined as a freight broker. And, you know, there's a lot of ways that we can kind of work around it. So like, I remember, dude, like we've known each other for, 4 or 5 years now at this point, and, bringing that up to your attention right away. And you were essentially like, I could do that. I could build that out, not knowing that, you have extensive experience building out software and writing code and all of that stuff. And, man, so it was like, how did you, like, what was it that got your creative juices, I'll call them, your creative juices really flowing when, after meeting with us initially at Unicron, and like, I can build this out, like there's a need for this?
Yeah. So it started with that conversation with Mitch and Kevin Kleiman, if you're out there, good to see you. So yeah, basically they said, we're tired of emailing this giant PDF around. We want to be able to just tell carriers, hey, go to our website and click on this link and fill this out. And so Mitch emailed me a blank copy of the carrier packet, and I looked through it and realized that this would really just be a matter of collecting and organizing data, which is pretty much what content management systems do that run websites anyway. So it wouldn't have been much of a leap to digitize it. And I kind of walked him through the level of complexity we'd be looking at there, the simplicity of an admin tool that we'd be looking at there. And when we did a rough prototype of the digital version of the carrier packet and walked through it and saw that it only took about 5 minutes to gather all of the information that was involved in the wild goose chase of the email method, it was a no-brainer to just pull the trigger and go ahead and do that project. And as a software guy, I'm obsessed with inefficiencies. I drive my wife crazy with it. Everywhere I look, I see process inefficiencies where a normal person would just see the world. And that one really jumped out at me as like a modern, efficient business, especially one that's schedule dependent like a freight brokerage, and especially a large successful one like Unicron, absolutely should be doing all this digitally. There's no reason to tolerate any holdup in that process. So I proposed the project to Mitch, and he said yes, and it was off to the races from there.
Yeah, man. I mean, because that's the thing, is it's like, I think especially now, because as someone who was a broker for 10 years, I know that. And then especially now, I mean, having the ability to work and talk to as many brokers that I do, it is that process. That is the most glaring thing that is missing, is there's no process to follow. We're jumping around from screen to screen. We got 7 different tabs open, work-related tabs, and you got, Barstool Sports and ESPN and everything else up there as well. But, we got like 7 tabs open, and we're out there, we're fighting an uphill battle against ourselves. And I think like where we're at as an industry, and the fact that now there are widespread API integrations that are out there to help that workflow. Because I think, and that's something that will never show up on a broker's P&L, is inefficiency, time lost. and that's because like there's no process for people to follow. And, I know as a carrier sales rep, when I was coming up, like, dude, we just wrote everything down on a notebook, like, oh, carrier does this lane. There's our email address, or, we would text them or something like that. Or if it was hey, we're getting a quote put together here. We want to run, Los Angeles to Phoenix, for example. What did we pay on it last? Or what carriers hauled it for us last? So we're going up there, we're pulling lane history, we're writing down carrier codes, we're jumping over to the carrier profile, we're pulling up their information through there, and then we're individually reaching out to them. And in freight, your quotes, your acceptance, your load acceptance, you have 5 minutes or less, or you're done. Somebody else is on it. Somebody else has gone for and taken that. So it's like, how do we streamline that process? And that's like what I love the most about when we had sat down and about like what was the most important thing. And for me, it was like bringing this to the desk level employee, because I think a lot of software is designed for the macro. And I get it. As a business owner, you're a multi-time founder as well. From the macro, I understand that. But when I work with my clients right now, it's how do we make the desk level employees more efficient? We all want to scale. We all want to go from 10 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 to $100 million brokerage. 80% of that revenue essentially could be found inside of our four walls already. But it's like, how much time are we wasting going and just posting a load, as opposed to going back to our existing carriers that we've worked for, who would probably do the load again. And that's where I found the most success as a broker, is when I scaled my operation back in, and I was very lane and region specific. And I had 10 carriers that were hauling 85% of my freight, and it was all done through text message. And it's like, now we have a one-click option through the load notification where your carrier reps don't have to go back into the lane history thing. It's all in our system. And one click, they can notify every carrier that's done it. And then can you talk about the whatchamacallit? You say it better than I do, like the 3 different categories of carriers based on like the volume of load that they've hauled and everything else. And like how does that even pull that data?
Yeah, absolutely. So that component is part of a tool in broker carrier called the load announcements tool. That fills a gap that a lot of TMSs have, which is when you have a load available, you need to quickly notify your capacity, your relevant capacity for that lane. So what we do is break that into 3 priority groups. When you announce a load through broker carrier, we're going to find carriers who have covered that lane for you before, like that specific lane, locality A to locality B, or really metro area A to metro area B, because sometimes the locality can be too specific. Group 2 is we're going to notify carriers that have hauled out of that origin for you before. Maybe not that exact lane, but we know that they've got trucks at that origin and they can do that pickup. So they're priority group 2. And then priority group 3 is carriers that you maybe don't have a load history with, but they've got the equipment that you need for the load, and they're located near one of the endpoints of the lane. So when you combine those three groups that we call priority groups, you've got your 99% chance of finding good qualified coverage for that load within this group of carriers that you already know. And it keeps you from having to go back out there to the spot market and do that whole song and dance again, which is what we're trying to minimize and avoid having to do every time, as a matter of increased efficiency and increased profitability.
No, I mean, that's exactly it. The spot market, as everybody watching knows right now, and all of these guys in the comments, I know Steve, Scott, Jesse, Matt Fink, you guys all know how volatile the spot market can be every single day. And, I think the brokerages that are finding the most success, because this is one of the most volatile markets that I think any one of us who have a lot of tenure in this industry have ever worked in. The market shifts, the pendulum swing, that's the same, but it's how drastic capacity dries up and how drastic these markets can change essentially at the drop of a dime. And we generally only saw that style was like Q4 LA holiday freight. That's when like your rates would jump up $800 on a lane within an hour style situations, And again, it's like finding the most success as a broker was when I was reutilizing the exact same carriers. Could I have played the spot market and saved a couple of pennies on either side? Maybe, but that wasn't efficient. That's not scalable. I know there's a lot of brokers out there who are in cradle to grave. they're responsible for booking their own carriers as well as growing their book of business with their customers. How do you do that? To effectively go from moving 5 loads a day to 10 loads a day, you can't be playing the spot market for every single time you're booking that load. And there are consistencies out there. And a lot of people, I hear the argument all the time, oh, we don't have consistent freight. You do, because like outbound Texas, Stephen Tittle, he's out there in Texas right now. Like outbound Texas, for example, the Dallas market, San Antonio market, and Houston market are generally going to have the same rate per mile going out to the Carolinas or Georgia, for example. There might be a couple of percentage points difference on each side, but it's going to be very similar to each other. So that's how we can take that and kind of scale that out. And I think that for us to separate yourself as a brokerage, you need to be able to do the little things right and efficient. It's not about, because everybody's got every bell and whistle that's out there. But as we all know, and I talk about this frequently, your technology means shit if your trucks don't show up. Well, how do you find all of these trucks that everybody say that they don't exist? Those trucks do exist. It's just 90% of the capacity never makes it to a load board. So if you're playing that same spot market every single day, you are literally missing out on 90% of the capacity, and it's already set up inside of your system. It is that simple.
It is. And, there's a lot of overlap with this. And thinking about any business, you want to build out a niche, really, really work your niche and really optimize your revenue within that smaller pond that you're the big fish in.
Yeah.
So for example, my other business, my previous one right before Broker Carrier, is a boutique software shop. Okay. And in operating in that kind of environment, whether you're doing software applications, mobile apps, websites, whatever it may be, if you're out there looking for a new client every time you want to do a project, you won't last very long. You'll get eaten alive. You'll be all cost, no profit, no nothing. The only way to thrive in that market is to pick a few clients that you really gel with and work with them and serve all of their needs long term. Have your dirty dozen, have your 6, maybe even just your 4 or 3 clients that account for nearly all of your business, and really, really work the niche that they're in and become an expert in their industries. And that's how you succeed as a software shop. Well, as a freight broker, you're basically a miniature business. So if you're always out there trying to find a carrier every time you need to move freight, if you're always out there looking for new customers, which, well, you should be doing that anyway. Yeah. But if you're redoing the basic work every time you're trying to bring money in the door, you're going to have longer gaps in between those occasions of bringing money in the door. Yeah. So by developing a carrier network and learning your carriers, getting to know them, learning when to reuse who, it can actually help you improve your load selection, your lane selection. You develop a stable, reliable capacity that you can plan your work around. And it might not be obvious within a day or a week, but if you follow that methodology for just a few months, you're going to be looking at your bank account and be very pleased with what you see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like we go after the exact same thing on the customer side. We want that consistent freight, right? We want those consistent shippers that move a certain amount of volume every single month, and that's what we work towards. But that's lost on the carrier side. It's lost because a lot of people are, and I get it. I mean, I was incentivized off of a margin. All right. As a broker, I was incentivized on putting up the most margin in a day. And I get that. And a lot of people who are listening currently or are going to be listening to this in the future, that's probably how they're incentivized. So I understand the desire to want to go out there and find a cheaper option. I get it. But how are you going to grow your book of business if you're fighting for that same 5 loads every single day, when you could develop out a carrier base through? It's not easy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, it's simple, because every carrier, I've been in everybody's seat. I know any counter argument to that statement. I get it. But there are carriers out there, plenty of them, that operate in this capacity, and they want brokers who are efficient. And that's what we can bring to the table. So it's like, if you're, because like working in a pure startup at Unicron, man, that's where I really learned how to broker. Because like when I worked for the big box, dude, we had compliance, we had insurance, we had everything at our disposal. We didn't really have to worry about much. But for the overwhelming majority of this industry, you are compliance, you are insurance, you are finance department, you are everything. So it's like, how do we grow our book of business? And that is the reutilization of carriers. And I know that that's a big hurdle to overcome, but there's zero difference between that and building up a customer partnership. It takes time. You guys work with a lot of shippers right now who you're probably thinking, fuck, these guys don't pay as fast, or, their loading times is up. I don't know if we can continue to work with them, but you filter through and you get to a point. There is I'll use air quotes, a sweet spot, because, shit happens in this industry, but there are sweet spots that you can attain as a broker and grow and scale your operation. And it is by reutilizing the same trucks time and time again that do a good job for you. Kion, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong there. Yes, if you just want to jump over to www.brokercarrier.com, it'll kind of list everything out in there for any questions that you have, or you can just DM me directly on LinkedIn and I can help you out with anything you need, or you can DM Kyle. Jesse Griffin, he's got a good point. Referrals from carriers for other carriers have been the best place of success for me in the past. After gaining that trust, it's always my first ask and it's always paid off. Once again, though, off the load board. Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's like the biggest value add any broker can offer is keeping your carriers and your customers off the spot market. And that is built up through consistency by having those same trucks show up, and here's like a major miss by a lot of brokers. I feel those drivers are literally your outside sales staff, because when I started developing out a carrier base, they were giving me direct access to shipping managers at other facilities. They're like, hey, I pick up here. They might need you. Here's the shipping manager. I know him by name. Say that I told them you were going to call. I literally had that happen to me. That never happened when I was playing the spot market. Scott's got a good one here. Carrier relationships are just as important as, 100%, man. It also sounds much better to a customer when you say, hey, I have a regular who wants this daily, weekly. Yeah, that's another massive selling point to your shipper partners out there. Especially if that driver does a phenomenal job for you, that shipper says, I want that driver back. And you're like, perfect. He's actually on the one next week for you. Again, building up that ecosystem of trust. Matt Perkins, this is a good guy I need you to put you in contact with, man. He was on my podcast last week. That he had to teach a rep this morning about the sweet spot on margin relationships when his comment was, man, these are easy bookings. I should lower the rate. The needle skipped. Yeah, I literally just fell over in my chair, Matt. You didn't see that. Because, it is playing that long-term game, and it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I'm a capitalist. I don't know anybody who doesn't enjoy making money and that allure of it, but I want to build a sustainable book of business that makes me money 12 months out of the year, to where I don't have to play the ups and downs of these markets, because these markets, especially now, they're extremely volatile. And I get the allure of it, but we need trucks to show up. Like I've just had too many of those conversations in my career with my shippers, all those bullshit excuses. Oh, the driver blew a tire fucking miraculously 5 minutes before pickup, because we as the broker didn't have it covered, or we wanted to play the spot market and hold out just a little bit too long. And then when everybody was quoting us 1,700 last hour, now this hour, everybody's at 2,200. And you're like, fuck, I just cost myself $500. That's like just the volatility of the spot market. Yeah, Scott Snyder, what's up, man? So with the carrier setup process, like this is one thing that I'm glad we studied our data on and came to the conclusion that we needed to make it as efficient and seamless for our carrier partners to get set up with us, because that's something that, again, when you're selling a service as a broker, you don't really think like, hey, I wonder if this packet is too much information or something like that. So it's like taking that. I mean, that's my biggest selling point to a lot of people, man. It's like your carriers can literally get set up in less than 5 minutes on our stuff if they have their W-9, their authority, and their insurance.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, when I do demos, I talk through the whole process and explain the whole thing as I'm going along, and I still finish it in about 5 minutes. And we, Broker Carrier has existed for a couple of years now, not in its current version. There was an older version that existed before. And we had that very long, very thorough packet that covered everything beyond services and equipment, also like lane preferences, or would you like to set up a carrier profile so that you can just one click update your information and not have to fill out all these pages again. And over the course of 20 odd thousand carriers onboarding through that system, we found that nobody used it. Pretty much everybody would skip the lane preferences step because it was more typing, that they didn't want to do. Nobody would use that carrier profile feature. I think we had like out of 20,000, I really think it was less than 50 carriers ever used that feature. And I think only one of them ever actually came back and logged in at a later date. We had the ability to embed the form directly into your website and customize it so that it would blend in with your website. One customer ever used it. So we found the unnecessary features, the unnecessary fluff that just makes the process take longer and doesn't improve it at all from an operational standpoint. And we cut it all out. And what we've arrived at is this fast, lean process that broker carrier has now that, anybody who's not tech savvy can still use it. It's just a really quick, easy form. It's actually easier than using the fax machine or the scanner that you could use to take the traditional carrier packet and email it back. I'm really proud of what we built there, and I think it's going to be very beneficial for brokers, especially small brokers, especially freelance brokers, to just start off the right way, just using this, just do everything digitally, and your result will end up being a lot better.
That's the thing, man, is because it's like, I talk to a lot of freight brokers, whether they're new in business or not. Some of them don't even have a carrier agreement. They don't even that's my one of the main driving forces behind all of my training and education that I put out there. Is there are unfortunately some very shady freight schools, quote unquote, that are out there that sell a dream on brokerage, but don't go over the legalities of it. They don't know what a carrier shipper agreement or a broker shipper agreement is. They don't know what a broker carrier agreement is either. And it's like, this is just a tool that, it protects you as an organization. And I think like this is something that was a very big sticking point for me personally, was on ensuring that you as the brokerage are still getting listed directly as a certificate holder on the insurance. Because I think that for me personally, I've been in that situation where insurance documents have been falsified. I've been in that situation where we as a company were paying out a $30,000 claim because we didn't do our due diligence. And I've had that experience, unfortunately, happen to where I don't want to utilize a third-party services for monitoring insurance. Like, I want to be directly listed, and I advise all of my clients on being directly listed as a certificate holder on there, because, let's be honest, as double brokering is a massive problem out there right now. Everybody watching the show knows that double brokering is a massive problem. So what can we do to possibly curb this, to ensure that we are at least taking the necessary steps forward? Because I can guarantee you this: attorneys don't care that you had a bad day and didn't do it. They're actually hoping for that to happen. And to protect yourself as an organization, and there's so many people out there that have every dollar on the line. They have worked their ass off. They are living their American dream, and they need to ensure that their company is protected, because insurance is the only thing that you really can't argue in court. Like, you could argue around a rate confirmation or a carrier agreement, but you can't argue the validity of insurance. Either you have it or you don't. And I want to ensure that all of our users on broker carrier, and all of you brokers out there listening, whether it's with our product or not, are verifying insurance documents for new carrier setups to ensure that, hey, you know what? They do have 100,000 in cargo coverage, or they do have $1 million in liability. Ensure that. Take that step. It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and then, when we first started to develop broker carrier, I researched that issue very thoroughly, because I am aware that there are services out there that claim to monitor carrier insurance for you. They claim to have like alerting systems that will tell you if an insurance policy lapses. And I was researching from a technology perspective, how are they doing that, or how would that work? And I come to find out that it's actually not a real thing at all. There is no such thing as programmatic real-time insurance monitoring. There is no alert system. The only people that get alerted to status changes on insurance policies are the certificate holders.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took the research into the administrative direction, and I spoke to a transportation attorney here in Nevada. I spoke to one in Texas. I spoke to one in Florida, and I spoke to one in Nebraska. And I got 4 attorneys from 4 different states, all said the person who brokers the load or the authority who brokers the load is supposed to be a certificate holder,
Mm-hmm.
period. So if you find yourself up against a claim and it turns out the insurance wasn't valid, your defense cannot be that a third party told you it was okay.
Yeah.
You're going to find out the hard way what that bond was for. You know?
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely, man. And again, like,
we built that into this process, that we don't let a carrier finish the onboarding process until they provide an insurance document that has you listed as the certificate holder.
Yeah. You know, because again, man, like I was in this position early on in my career where we booked a carrier on a load. They were on 6, not 1, but 6 truckloads for us from Seattle to Chicago. And their insurance lapsed in transit, but they falsified the document. And the only reason we knew and we were able to act in time is due to the fact that we were listed as the certificate holder, you know? And that's the thing, is like, these things are imperative to the security of your organization. And just shout out here. Let's see. Yeah, Steven, and put it on the blockchain. You know, you never know. It's one of those things that, again, there's a lot of stuff out there. Let me see. Tim, sorry, I just saw your comment come through. Is there an updated via the FMCSA via API? Look up the FAST Act of 2015. I'm not going to go into this again. We're here to talk about why we're what we're doing with our product and why we want you guys listed as a certificate holder. But that's something that, you know, we're not going to discuss today. But the API, do this, Kyle. This is a great opportunity. What is an API? Fuck, man. You've explained it to me, but it's one of those things that, like, here's how my elementary technology style brain works. Is an API is essentially like a power cord from a toaster, and you plug it into the wall and fucking you can make toast. That's my surface level understanding.
It's not a bad swing at it. No. So, you know, API stands for Application Programming Interface, right? So even more boring than you thought. But basically all it is a program that can only interface with other programs, really. Like, you have to write code in order to talk to it. So let's use LinkedIn as an example. Okay. So you go to LinkedIn and you log into the website, or you open up the mobile app, and you're looking at your LinkedIn news feed. You can see your posts from the people that you're connected with. But what you're doing there is you're accessing LinkedIn's data by way of their application, by way of their user interface. Now, if you were to access that data through their API, what you would be doing is writing some code that runs on your own infrastructure that then speaks to the LinkedIn servers and grabs that same data that the mobile app on your phone was grabbing, but it's doing it in a different specific way that you want it to do. So APIs just allow computer systems to talk to each other and share data among each other without a physical user conducting an action manually, right? So Broker Carrier's API, for example, does everything that the dashboard does. If you want to post a load announcement, you can log into your dashboard and do it there. Or if your TMS is integrated with our API, you can do it from there. And it just is their system, talks to our system, and tells it to conduct some action that it knows how to conduct. And then returns a result to it that says, yeah, it worked, or no, it didn't work, or here's the data you asked for, or no, your key is wrong, or whatever it may be. But that's really all that it is a program that doesn't have an interface that can only talk to other programs.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely.
As a concept, APIs have been around for, well, actually for longer than there's been an internet. They just became very popular in the age of the internet and the age of the World Wide Web. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, if you guys want your TMS to be integrated with this, send them my way. They know how to find me. Tim, and then another thing to answer your question out there, check out Cassandra Gaines' product with Carrier Assure. She's got some real-time data that's out there as well to kind of help utilize more carriers that are out there and kind of monitor their performance based on their actual performance. of the freight that they're hauling and everything else. She's got a great concept out there. I'm a huge fan of what she's building out, and that's definitely something to take into consideration.
Yeah,
Rhonda,
it's amazing. Yeah,
I was going to say, Rhonda, what's up? How are you? Great to see you. She's out here in Arizona with me. She could run circles around both of us. She's fucking savage on the mountain. She's great. But yeah, dude, I think like, because that's one thing I think like as a whole in the transportation industry, when it comes to technology, there's a lot of hesitancy out there because I think there's a lot of sticker shock that is a part of it, but it's also not understanding like the real true value in what it actually does and like the importance. Like I think like me personally, if I was sitting down with the company, and they were demoing their product, whatever that is, I would want to know what their tech stack looked like. Who are they integrated with via API, and how is that going to benefit me? What do they have on the table to do that? And and again, like I've had, obviously a shout out to Bitfreighter on this, but I talk to Brad Perling all the time. He's one of the co-founders over there about this and how they are actively working through those integrations now because they want their clients to see the most value in it. Because when you invest in a TMS system, the brainchild of your brokerage or your trucking company alike, you shouldn't be jumping around to multiple screens just to do a simple task. It should be that one-click notification. That's what I love about what Trucker Tools has and their Book It Now feature and everything that they have built in to their TMS partners. Shout out to Port TMS about that as well. They've streamlined all of that. And, for me, it's one of those things like you need to sit down. I mean, Kyle, tech, like obviously, it a hell of a lot more in depth from that level than I do. What is something that you would suggest that people listening to this or watching this, Millie, what up? What are some questions that they could ask to their tech partners?
Okay. So you mean like in terms of a broker looking like to select a TMS?
Yeah, like a broker looking to select a TMS or load boards or an EDI platform or something along those lines.
Okay. So demos are important. Asking about features is very important because when you're selecting a software product to use in your operations, you need to see how well the design of that product gels with your operations. Right. So are you going to have to relearn a new process to use this software product, or can you find one that fits with how you like to do your work already?
Yeah.
And then in terms of, and so you can only glean that information by scheduling demos and going through them. And unfortunately, you're going to get bombarded with marketing messaging as a result of doing that. But you got to do your shopping and go ahead and tolerate all the marketing that you'll be subject to, because this is going to be a very important decision for your business going forward. In terms of technological integrity, you want something ideally where you don't have to install anything on your local computers, because every time you make a copy of code, you're making another instance of it that can break. You're creating another vulnerability point somewhere in your infrastructure. So if it's purely cloud-based, that's a huge plus. The going buzz term right now is cloud native. It doesn't actually mean anything. It just means it's web-based. But if they say cloud native, then they're referring specifically to what we're looking for here. You want to ask a few questions about security, about encryption. If you come at somebody with the phrase encryption at rest and ask them if their data is held with encryption at rest, a confident, immediate yes is exactly what you're looking for there. Okay, if you're dealing with a software company who doesn't seem to know what you mean by that or are hesitant to answer that question, you're going to get your data compromised. Okay, so that's an important thing. You want to look at user licensing in terms of how many activation seats you get, because this is where marketers and salespeople do their subversive magic within the realm of software products. They'll take you to the cleaners on getting multiple users, on getting more activation seats, on getting more support. Anything that involves them having to deal with people, they're going to charge far, far too much for if they're trying to use the sneaky old software pricing models that a lot of older companies do. So you're just looking for a lean, fast, cloud native, security focused product with a team that is accessible, where you contact support and a human being emails you back or calls you back. And you don't just get 23 different form answers out of a Zendesk module, right? That's how you know that nobody's paying attention to your needs.
Yeah.
So really, it's just a matter of being discerning and shopping for your business and asking the right questions. In terms of the quality of software that's out there, I think in general, it's all pretty good now. So really just finding the one that gels with you, the one that you could see yourself being happy, sitting in front of it, using it all day is the crucial thing you're going for there. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, it's like, it's just like, because I think that that's something that a lot of people need to look at on the front end on when they're deciding who to work with, what to work with, and to make the best and most sound decision for their businesses overall. And that's stuff that, again, it's like having the right information to bring to the table. You know, it's just like in working with a lot of my clients that are brokers. Hey, what are the right questions that we can ask our shipper partners to ensure that we at least are going to put the right information out there to gain their attention on what to do. And again, it's like, I just want to see people, because I'm like, obviously I'm a massive fan of technology. I'm a massive proponent of streamlining your operations and bringing this stuff to the level that we need. And I just want to see everybody succeed with it and not have that hesitancy of, I don't know what questions to ask anybody out there on what partners that I need to choose and doing the right thing. Because I mean, that's scary, man. As you know, building businesses up and reinvesting in your company, it's key. And it's like, you know, I'm not saying like this is going to be like the secret sauce and this is going to solve all your issues. But again, it's information, it's education. That's 100% of the reason why I create content, is to help educate people and bring a different perspective to the table that people can actually, you know, digest in trucking language. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
And, you know, this is a question that you and I have encountered during talks with potential integration partners. It's a question that I've encountered before, is why this issue? Why carrier onboarding? Right? Yeah. Because it's not a sexy problem. It's not a bleeding edge problem. You know, everybody wants to analyze data and show off their whiz-bang linear regression algorithms that they call AI, even though it's not. But nobody wants to solve fundamental business problems. And when I looked at the process of the typical desk level freight broker, the broker agent, the carrier sales rep, whatever you want to call them, this issue came up every time.
Yeah.
You know, there's no clean, fast, obvious way to onboard a carrier and quickly verify their information and get that administrative step out of the way so you can continue on with making money. Nobody wants to solve this problem because nobody's going to be on the cover of Wired magazine for solving this problem. Yeah. Well, I don't care about that. I'm here to help this market. You know, I want every broker. I don't just want the $100 million brokerage. I want somebody who's thinking about becoming a freight broker. You know, and that's why we have those pricing levels all the way down to $19 a month. You're not risking anything. You know, that's worth 20 minutes of your time in a given week.
Absolutely.
And when I look around at all the technology that's being thrown at the industry, I mean, I love what a lot of these groups are doing with the smart capacity matching and the co-op style carrier sharing, and you've got technology that can quickly match a load to a carrier, and that's wonderful. But you get your match, you find out what carrier you're going to use. Now what do you have to do?
Yeah, gotta get them set up.
Onboard them and verify their insurance. It's like everybody just leaves that part out because they don't think it's the whiz bang feature that's going to sell. But it's not a whiz bang feature, but it's a feature that is necessary for every broker. And if we can fill that gap and eliminate that problem for an entire industry, then we're doing some worthwhile work here. You know?
Absolutely, man. And that's the whole point of bringing stuff down to the desk level. It's improving that because, like I brought up earlier, man, everybody wants to grow, right? And it's not, the problem isn't solved by hiring sales reps, because if you can't cover 500 shipments right now with your current force, how is adding another 500 on there going to help anything? You know? If anything, you're going to torpedo your business at that. So again, it's like, how do we improve that? And it's all process. You need a process to follow. As a carrier sales rep, you know, you should be literally moving no less than 25 shipments a day by yourself. Like that's where you can get to. That's the levels that you can operate in. And, you know, again, it's like hiring more sales reps. You want to add, you want to grow, automate. 95% of our job as a freight broker should be automated. There's no, you can't convince me of anything other. The only thing I should be focused on with my customers is how do I grow my book of business with them? How do I nurture that relationship? How do I level that up? And same with my carriers as well. That's the way it's got to look. We're up on time. That was a quick 45, you guys. Yeah. Everybody who jumped out there, my screen like froze. So that's why I haven't been able to change any of the comments that have came through. You know, I'm just figuring out all this stuff as I go. Thank you guys all so much for joining me. Shout out to my friends at Bid Freighter. Shout out to my friends at Emerge, Trucker Tools for all the support. Kyle, thanks for joining me, man. I look forward to continuing to grow out Broker Carrier and everything else that we got going on out there. So please, if you want, check us out. Again, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to provide value to you guys. If you want to check us out and see what we can do, www.brokercarrier.com. We have an affordable and seamless option to bring to the table to help streamline your carrier onboarding as well as optimize your carrier sales reps, daily routines and everything else. So thank you guys all so much. I got to figure out how to end the show because my screen's frozen. And yeah, here we go. I'm going to go into Kyle. You could probably walk me through one of these awesome things right now. I'm just going to end it. All right. I'm going to end it on my taskbar. I'll talk to you guys all soon. Next Thursday, actually, I'm going to be live from the TIA conference. Check it out there. If you want to be live on the show next week, you'll see me. I'll be rocking the orange polo and the backwards hat like I always do. If you want to be on Coach's Corner live next week, reach out to me. We'll get you on there. We'll do a quick interview and everything else and have you be a part of it. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking.